can we please stop calling Galactic Starcruiser the Star Wars Hotel? Welcome to Princess and Scoundrel, where we take you along our scrappily ever after from Fantasyland to Tatooine and everything in between. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Steven.
And we're back talking Galactic Starcruiser. Surprise, surprise. I think it's our favorite subject.
Yep.
Like ever. But people love to call Starcruiser the Star Wars Hotel. And it is far from anything like a hotel.
Yeah. No, I think it's so kind of where our thought for today's discussion is, you know, you're doing the travel agent stuff, and there's a lot of questions that still keep coming up that, you know, we hear that it's not thinking that it's a normal hotel. And I think those are kind of what we want to, I guess, talk about. And it's weird because there's nothing really out there that tells us differently. And only because we've experienced it that we kind of know that, oh, hey, this is, you know, you can't do that, you can do this. So I think that's where we kind of came with this discussion.
Yeah, no, that's a good lead in, because if you just go based off of what you see on the Starcruiser website, it's not telling you. It's telling you some things, but it's not telling you all the things. And so,
yeah, and I think that's the thing is a lot of the discussion so far has been about the experience, the story of Starcruiser, what you see and what you feel, and this is more the kind of like the logistics of it, the actual,
like the accommodations and yeah, how it's really not a hotel. It is, you're sleeping there, you're paying to sleep somewhere that's not your house, but it's not really a hotel. Yeah. So first up is arriving to Starcruiser. When you actually get there, you can't get there. It's not like a regular hotel where it's like check-ins at 3, but show up anytime. You cannot get there. You cannot walk into Starcruiser before 1 p.m. Yeah. You can line up a little bit early. Like, I think it's, I don't remember exactly if it's 11 a.m. or 12, but you can't get there super early in the morning, drop off your stuff. Like, it's not like that.
Well, that's because the last voyages are leaving.
Yeah, the turnaround on this is tight. Like, the last Voyagers were there that morning, sleeping in the bed you're going to sleep in that night. They're off the ship between 8 and 10 a.m. They're turning over those rooms, and then you board between 1 and 4 p.m. And that 1 to 4 p.m. is a tight arrival time. If you arrive after 4, you're going to start missing out on the experience. So don't show up. Don't fly in that day and like your flight lands at 6 p.m. You're going to miss things if you do that.
I think that's the thing too, is like you're paying for kind of as much time as possible. And, you know, again, we've said like it doesn't feel like you have enough time there. Don't waste it by flying in later in the day. Now, again, if you can, I mean, you have to, then, you know, you have to, but that's definitely something that you have to pay attention to. One of the things when you're actually checking in is you're basically going into the parks because you have to go through security.
Yeah. Yeah, on your way into Starcruiser, you go through security.
So that's you have to go through security, but also your luggage. Mm-hmm. So they take, you know, they send it through the X-ray, and if you have any like big tools or big scissors, they're gonna, you know, flag it, and you have to come down and, you know, take it back to your car. And we actually experienced this where they had to take it to the car.
Yeah, it wasn't us. It was a friend who'd brought a screwdriver, I think.
Yeah. As a prop.
Like they were they were fixing their costumes the day before Starcruiser. But what they do is they take your luggage. When you arrive, they take your luggage and they bring it up to your room for you. So you don't even see it. But as they're bringing it up to your room, they're checking your bags. Yeah. So it's essentially kind of like park rules. Like, don't bring stuff.
Yeah, so make sure that you're not bringing anything that
you're not supposed to.
You're not supposed to.
Yeah. You're big time, right? The other thing is there's no bell services. So yes, they'll take your bags and they will check them and then bring them to your room, but they're not holding luggage at Starcruiser like they would a typical resort. So typically if you go to a resort and you get there before your room is ready, you can drop your stuff off at bell services and they hold it. That's not this case. And same with when you're leaving. It's not like you can leave your bags there, you go enjoy a park day, and then you pick your bags up before you fly home.
Well, and I think that's where, during a trip, bell services is like you dropping off a backpack while you go eat, and then you go pick it up to get back on the shuttle or something.
Right.
You're not leaving from Starcruiser. So they don't need it during that time, and then when you leave, they want you gone for the next trip.
They have closed the chapter on your voyage and they don't want to see you again. Which is another thing too, is to talk about the transportation to and from Starcruiser. So if you're staying at a Disney resort, they will bring you and your luggage there. Nope, that's not a big deal. But when you're leaving Starcruiser, if you are flying out that day, like we flew out, we were on the second voyage, so they were still working out the wrinkles of getting people off of Starcruiser property. And so what we experienced, which we covered in another video, we don't need to cover it again, but what we experienced was not what is happening right now. What's happening right now is, say you leave Starcruiser at 10 a.m. and you have a flight at 8 p.m. that night. If that's the case, you can't leave your luggage at Starcruiser. So what they do is they've partnered up with, currently at the time of this recording, the Riviera Resort. And so they will take you and your luggage to Riviera Resort, treat you like a day guest, let you check your luggage in there, and then you can either hang out at Riviera, you can go do whatever, and then when you're ready to go to the airport, if you're doing a shuttle service or whatever, you leave from Riviera to the airport.
But when you talk about shuttle service, you have to make sure you let that shuttle service know to pick you up from Riviera, not Starcruiser.
Not Starcruiser, yeah, because unless they're picking you up before 10 a.m., they're not going to let you back on Starcruiser property. It's very, 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 very regimented. Now, when you are on Starcruiser, you're not leaving Starcruiser. Once in Starcruiser, always in Starcruiser. So there's a couple of things. It's kind of like a lock-in. But I think that's the best way to treat it. It's not like a come and go type of thing. Like once you're in there, you're scanning in, you've gone through security, you're expected to stay in this building until your voyage is over. I mean, you go to Batuu and all that stuff, but
at designated times. You can't go whenever.
At designated times. But what happens if you need to go outside to like real outside, right? There's a couple of options. There's the climate simulator, which is really neat. It was not what I was expecting at all. But it's supposed to be a climate simulator, so it simulates what it's like on Batuu. So if you just need fresh air because you're claustrophobic and you're like, oh my God, 2 days inside, they do have that, which is just a really nice place to go hang out as well.
It's a nice little patio type thing.
But then there's people like, if you smoke, if you have a service animal that needs to relieve themselves, what do you do in those instances? So
you actually have to take the elevator out or take the shuttle.
The launch pod.
You got to take it out, right? You got to go outside of the building and remove yourself. So, and it's not like an easy walk outside. Again, you have to take the launch pod. It's like
I don't think they let you like take the stairs out of there or like take it. Like they want you to still be immersed. So you truly like take a launch pod back down to earth, go all the way outside, come back in. We didn't do that. So we don't know what that experience was like. We didn't want to we didn't need to leave, but we also didn't want to just break the immersion for no reason.
Yeah.
But let's talk about rooms. The rooms on Starcruiser. There's a couple of things to note with that. So one, whenever you're booking Starcruiser, you have to designate somebody as the lead guest. That person cannot change on the reservation. So whoever your lead guest is, like make sure that person is going and make sure that they're responsible for everybody else in the room, because I have clients that are strangers that have never met before. And so we have to designate one of them as the lead guest and they have to coordinate everybody else. And so if people back out, sometimes that means the whole trip gets canceled. Sometimes that means somebody subs in, but just make sure whoever the lead guest is absolutely on board with going.
So you definitely got to be the leader.
Yeah. Be the leader.
Because you're going to also assume responsibility for paying the payment, final payment and all that stuff. So, and you could switch people out up to.
You can switch people out at any time.
At any time, okay.
Yeah, it's just the lead guest like cannot change. So that's one thing to note about the rooms is like make sure that person is going to be there. Second thing is there are pieces of the Starcruiser rooms that are kind of like a regular hotel, but also not. When you go to a typical hotel, you expect like a coffee maker, maybe a microwave, maybe an iron. You do get like a tiny little fridge. It's like smaller than, or what is it?
And
It's a cooling
safe,
unit.
Right? There's a safe in there too.
There was a safe, yeah.
So,
and some robes. There were a couple of robes.
Yeah.
I don't know when you would wear those robes. You're not in your room that much.
Yeah, that much.
But yeah, there's a couple of things. So there's like a tiny little refrigerator, kind of like what you would have back in college.
Yeah, it's a smaller. It's
smaller
really
than
small.
like and it's hidden. It's like in the closet with the safe. If you do need an iron, like for your costumes or whatever, you can ask for it at they call it passenger service, which is like the front desk. But otherwise, they don't keep that in the room. Yeah. But that's something you need to know to ask for, because otherwise you're just like wetting it in the shower and hanging it to dry or something, or bring a steamer. Like that's what we did. We brought a steamer. The other thing is that Starcruiser rooms, it's not like a typical resort in which you can say, oh, we would like to request 2 queen beds or 1 king bed. No, you get 3 options of room types, and those options aren't even that flexible either. Like you get the standard cabin, which has a queen bed, 2 bunks, and a pull-down bed, sleeps 5 people. There is no option for a king. There is no option for the only extra thing you can do in there, I think, is bring in like a pack and play for a baby. Because remember, we were supposed to get a pack and play. We didn't, and it was fine. We didn't need one, but that's it. So if that configuration doesn't work, there's the Galaxy class suite, which only sleeps 4 people. They don't have the bunk beds, and it's still a queen bed. There are no king beds, I don't think, at all on Starcruiser. Or if you have a party bigger than 5, you could do the Grand Captain suite, which is essentially like a 2-bedroom suite. But there's no adjoining rooms. There's nothing. So you get A, B, or C. That's it.
Yeah. And the Grand Captain suite is very limited.
Yeah, there's only 2.
There's only 2 per trip.
Yeah.
So those are very, very, very highly sought after, because it's, again, just the what is it?
The prestige.
Not even the prestige, just like there's not that many. There's just 2 rooms.
Yeah.
Like that. There's only 2 of them. So
Yeah.
they fill up that fast. How is the setup of the Galaxy suite? You said it's just 1 queen?
I think it's 1 queen. I think it's 2 I think it's a pull-down bed and maybe a sofa bed. There's no bunks. I know that there's no bunks in there,
Okay.
but I think it's just it's like a 1-bedroom suite, and then there's 2 other beds. One of them I know is a pull-down, but I don't remember if the other one is a pull-down or a sofa bed.
And again, those are pretty limited as well.
Yeah, there's only 4 of those. So pretty much if you want to go on Starcruiser, you're sleeping in the standard cabin.
Or you're going to have to push your dates pretty far into the...
Yeah, which
because, people get it.
Yeah. At least 2 or a maximum of 2 each
true.
time. But yeah, there's people that are like, I just want to wait until I can get a suite. Like, all right.
Yeah. You can't... There's no room service. There's no
room service.
Yeah, there's no room service. There's no ordering pizza, or ordering food from the restaurant to, bring it in. So I think that's something to kind of like, realize that you can't just, you know what, I don't feel like eating this. Let me order something else.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't do food delivery. I had heard that you could do like, if you wanted to bring in like Prime delivery or like a grocery delivery, you could do that. But I don't think they really allow you to do that. They don't want you breaking that immersion unless you absolutely have to, like you're going to smoke or your service dog or something like that. but they keep you so well fed on the ship. And there's food pretty much available at any time on the ship too. So there's, unless you have very specific dietary needs that they can't meet on the ship, which would be really surprising because they're really good about that stuff, you're going to be just fine food-wise. Like, I think breakfast, I don't remember the exact hours of breakfast. I think it's like 6 to 10. And then lunch starts like 11 to 4. And then you've got your dinner services at 5:30 and 8 o'clock.
And breakfast and lunch are kind of set up as a buffet style, right?
Yep,
like
buffet.
They bring it out and you go get whatever you want. And you could eat all through that time, right?
Yeah, you could eat once, you can go do something, you could come back and eat again.
And there's no charge for like eating more. The only thing is the drinks.
The alcohol, yeah. And I think they have like specialty non-alcoholic beverages too. Because they had that one with the blue milk ice cream and I didn't get it because I didn't realize that's what it was. Oh, that made me sad. But then dinner, you have your 2 dinner times and those are table service. So you do have a waiter. It's the same waiter each night. So similar to like a cruise where they'll seat you at the same table. You'll have the same server and they'll bring you food. But same thing there. If you want more of something, they bring it to you. And that's really nice. Like our kids, we ordered, I think, 2 different things off the kids' menu for them one night. And one saw the other one had pizza and was like, oh, I want pizza. And so they brought out pizza, no problem.
That's pretty nice because you could try different foods and not feel bad, ordering different things.
The beauty of a buffet.
Yeah. But also during dinner, there is the captain's table.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that's kind of like another one of those sought after additions because it's limited based off of your party. So everybody in your room has to be able to fit on that table. You can't just say, oh, 2 of us are going to go eat at the table, captain's table. The other 2 go eat somewhere else. Like, no, if there's 4 of us, we all 4 have to go and have to fit. So sometimes there's availability of 2 or 3, but if you got a bigger group, then you can't.
You're not getting in there. Yeah. So captain's table is limited to 11 seats per dinner time. So 5:30 and 8 o'clock each night. So a total of 44 people can experience this on a single voyage, and you can only do one captain's table. You can't get it for both nights. But yes, like you said, it is all or nothing for your cabin. So like for us, when we went, we were a group of 12, but we were split across 3 cabins. So if like the 4 of us in our family got it, that wouldn't have been an issue because we were in one cabin. But we couldn't, like you and I couldn't go sit at captain's table, and we made our kids go sit with the other.
Like even our group, like if we had 4 in our cabin and then one person, there was an extra seat, another person from one of the other cabins couldn't come.
Yeah. And so,
well, if, it's a big kind of hall that people could move around. And I think there was like, hey, just come check it out. Just come see the table. But that's not the intention. You're at your table. And
well, you've got it's an extra too. You pay for it.
So
the captain's table, but
it's very minimal cost as far as like,
it's only $30 a person.
So, and that's, I think, an extra.
You get some extra plates. You get some drink pairings. They'll give you like little, like the medallion. And I think they give you like a couple of things like that. And then the captain will come and sit, but she's only there for about 10 to 15 minutes because there's story elements going on during dinner
there's like
as
a show.
well. So it's not like you're just sitting there with the captain for the entire hour and a half. Like she's there and she interacts with you and you get that one-on-one time with her, but it's not the entire dinner. But yeah, that's one of the big things is, one, people get really excited about captain's table and wanting to do it. And I get it because it's exclusive and it's cool. And so, but it's exclusive. So it's hard to get. And so I do have people that wanted it, aren't able to get it during booking. And we have to keep calling and trying. Sometimes you can get it. Sometimes availability opens up. People cancel. Sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, and I think the thing is like, it is kind of the prime location because the table is like right in the middle. Yeah. So when there is things happening, it's you have kind of the best vantage point by sitting at that, in that center table. So, again, there's an appeal to it. There's an advantage to it if you're able to get it, right?
If you're able to get it, which unfortunately not everybody can do. But moving on from the food, let's talk about Batuu, which is when you actually get to leave the Halcyon and go into the parks. That's where it's similar-ish to a Disney resort in that you do get to go to a theme park, but not quite. You're going to Batuu. I think a lot of people think they're going to have all day to go to Hollywood Studios specifically and ride rides outside of Batuu. It's hard. It's a hard sell, especially if people haven't been to Hollywood Studios before.
Yeah, I think that's the, one of the questions that, I hear you kind of answering a lot. But the thing is like you're very time restrained by, you're not getting there before a rope drop, or you're not getting there for a rope drop, right?
Yeah.
So you don't get that advantage. And they expect you to be back at the resort or on Starcruiser by 4, or you kind of have to find your way back.
Yeah, they tell you be back by 4. The last transport, it's like 4:30, and they're like, do not.
So, I mean, what do they do? Like, if you don't make it back, do they get a transport for you, or they just kind of like...
I've asked, and what I was told is that you have to leave through the front of the park, like walk all the way through Hollywood Studios and Uber back to Starcruiser.
Kind of like a walk of shame.
Pretty much.
Like, you missed the boat, you got to find your way back.
Because they really do keep it immersive from the shuttle from Starcruiser to Batuu. They make it feel like you are taking a launch pod or a shuttle to the planet Batuu, and then you're going back. So yeah, if you have to leave Batuu to go all the way around, or just to go ride rides or whatever, it's totally pulling you out of it.
I mean, and as far as the time, you get the basically like free lightning lanes, right? For Rise of Resistance and Smuggler's Run.
Yeah. But they're better than Lightning Lane, because Lightning Lane, you have a return time and you have to ride it within a certain hour time frame. With this, it's just like, go do it at some point while you're on Batuu.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
So, yeah. I mean, so I think it's possible to go ride other rides, but the other part of it, and now as I'm thinking of it, is you actually have events that you have to, not even story points that you're doing missions and whatever, but for instance, mine, I had my lightsaber training at 3.
Yeah. They changed your lightsaber training too.
So it was, I mean, we knew about it in the morning, but it was at 3. So we had to be back. And then we actually had scheduled our photo session before that. Mm-hmm. So the way the timing was is we had to be back by 1.
Yeah.
So depending how you're scheduled from your itinerary, we wouldn't have had time to go sit, in a 40-minute line, because we did, again, because you have the opportunity to go to Oga's, Savi's, go build a lightsaber, or build a droid. You're also able to go eat, at Docking Bay 7 or Ronto Roasters. Yeah. So they give you a lot of opportunities to do stuff within Galaxy's Edge that if you want to take advantage of those things, you're going to be kind of filled with your time.
Yeah. And that's the hard part too, is I do have a lot of clients that haven't been to Hollywood Studios since Galaxy's Edge has opened, or there are new things outside in Hollywood Studios like Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, but because they've never been before, they're like, I want to build lightsabers and build droids and go to Oga's, and then we want to ride the rides, and then we want to eat lunch. It's a lot. And if you've never been and you don't understand the layout of Batuu, and you've never worked a data pad, it takes a little bit of time to figure that stuff out. And because you're running around and doing missions, there's no easy way to lay it out on a map and say, okay, I'm going to start my missions on this side and work my way around. And as I'm working my way, I'm going to hit, I'm going to I'll land here in time for my Droid Depot reservation. It's not, we know Batuu. Yeah. We've been plenty of times and we felt like scattered and it just felt a little chaotic.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I definitely felt that way because it was, again, it was a bit, it felt rushed.
Yeah.
Because we were trying to accomplish everything that we wanted to accomplish. And then having the different activities, it did take up our time, and then getting back in time for, other activities. So, I think that's one of those things that kind of setting your expectation of like, you're capable of doing it. You're able to do it by going to Hollywood Studios, but realistically, I could see it being one of those like challenges. Somebody's like, I'm going to try to go to Starcruiser, ride those rides, and then ride, how many rides I can ride before. Like
a Hollywood Studios Amazing Race.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, again, it's possible, but you're up against, crowds. And I think that's the big thing is like, and you could still get a Genie Plus.
You cannot buy Genie Plus.
Oh, you can't?
You cannot buy Genie Plus with you. That's a really good point. The way that they treat your admission into Hollywood Studios is not the same as a typical park ticket. So you cannot buy Genie Plus that day because they don't recognize that you have purchased a park ticket. So you can't go buy that and then try to go ride Slinky Dog or Toy Story Mania or any of those other things. So if you're going to do it, you've got to do standby lines.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So that'd be a even more difficult challenge.
But yeah. And I know like we're not really touching on the story and the experience, but just to leave Batuu when you have so much to do that like drives your story and your experience on Starcruiser, just I think it would be very jarring to do that. Yeah. And there's not enough time.
Yeah, I that's where I would say is like it would be very pressed for time.
Yeah. But speaking of activities, events, missions, things that you're doing, when you're on Batuu too, but once you're back on the ship, you're busy. You have an itinerary that I believe you can start seeing some of it about 60 days beforehand, and then it starts shaping up a little more 30 days beforehand. But that itinerary is constantly changing, and it may seem like there's not a lot of stuff on there, and it may seem like there's a lot of stuff on there. And so we wanted to break down the different events because it's kind of similar to a hotel stay where they'll have, like movies on the lawn or, little activities like tie-dyeing shirts and these things. It's kind of similar to that, but there's so much more as part of Starcruiser.
Well, because before we went, we were watching those itineraries like a hawk.
Yeah.
And, putting it into our calendar, kind of like, okay, remind me to do this. Because it looked like it was very strict on, this time to this time. Okay, there was a little bit of overlap, but this time to this time. Like, oh, well, there's 2 activities going on. We're going to miss one of these activities. And I think we kind of like have been able to kind of break the activities down into kind of easy to consume.
I thought you were going to say like easy to digest chunks. I'm like, oh.
Easy to consume pieces of
better.
Knowledge.
Way better. Sorry.
But kind of the first thing is like the main story points. Main story, right? And that is where they're pulling everybody into the atrium and they're having the muster, or they're having the main story events that everybody's part of, and they're like on your itinerary that these are the main ones. And I think those are designated with like a yellow.
I think there's like a little yellow dot. They're highlighted in some way that like you got to be there.
Yeah.
Like go do this one thing.
And those are kind of like set at certain time. So those are like, when they're going to happen, when you're going to go to them.
Yeah.
So I think those are the main ones that you have to basically participate in.
Yeah. And then there's things like the ones that everybody's looking forward to, your lightsaber training, your bridge training. And those get a little bit tricky and people get a little mixed up on it because it'll say it's an unscheduled activity, and it'll say that for a long time because for the most part, like those main story points, those are set times. They already know well in advance when those things are going to happen. But for lightsaber training and for bridge training, they're having to work around party sizes and timings and getting everybody's itineraries just right. So it takes a little longer to, one, schedule those, and two, they could change. Like yours changed.
Yeah. And that changed like the day that we got there.
Yeah.
Or the night before.
Right.
You know, day 2.
And the reason it changed, we were in the same lightsaber training together, you, me, and our 7-year-old son. But because we also had our 2-year-old daughter, very kindly, they split you and me up into different lightsaber trainings so that the other one could watch our 2-year-old.
But so then that means that was the other thing is the itinerary. I had to look at mine, and I wouldn't have caught it until I looked at mine. So if I was going off of your itinerary, I would have missed it.
Yeah.
So
they probably would have let you in. Anyway, they would have worked it out, I think. They were very accommodating about, like, if you miss a training or something. But check your itinerary. It's going to change.
Yeah, it'll definitely change. So those are, like, the main activities, right? So we have the main story, main activities. Then we have what we kind of call, like, the filler activities, right?
Yeah.
And they're on that itinerary that are kind of filling most of the time. But it's like
like, remember when we first got our itineraries? It was like sabak training. Was it training, classes, lessons, sabak lessons? But we had you were like, I have 6 sabak lessons on my itinerary.
So, but again, it's just because they were filling that time.
Yeah.
And really, you can go learn sabak, and get sabak lessons anytime.
Yeah.
So don't
freak out about that.
Don't freak about that. But there's like the fashion show.
Yeah, the Outer Rim Regalia.
So, and these are all just kind of like
sector set, which is like bingo, and then they have like know your cabin maid or something like that. It's like I don't know, just like a little game show. Yeah, exactly. I couldn't remember what the game. I was just gonna say it's a generic game show. But they have those, I think, for the sake of having
other
activities to do for people that maybe don't want to get too involved in the story, but also just to fill the time and to treat it like a cruise. Like you're on a luxurious cruise vacation in space. Like we like to play bingo.
Yeah. And none of those that we know of have any effect or any of the story. But when you are doing those, it is in the atrium. And
most of them. I think the sabak tournament is in the dining room. No, it's in the dining room.
Really?
Yeah. The table that we sat at for dinner?
Yeah.
That's where it is.
Oh, right interesting. I thought it was up in sublight.
I think maybe the lessons are in sub. I don't really know. We didn't do any of the filler activities, except I happened to come out of the elevators or the lifts when it was ending. And I walked right up and I was like, oh, what is this, to the cast member? And they're like, do you want in? I was like, I don't know what this is. They're like, you want in. What's your name? And I was like, Sarah? They're like, they get on the mic. They're like, we have one more. And they get everybody cheering. And me and our son walk down this little red carpet that they had. I was like, oh, okay, here he is. So I did participate in the
unintentionally.
I got a picture out of it.
Nice.
But yeah, I didn't do any of the other filler activities.
Yeah. Then that leads us into the story.
Your personal
story.
Yeah.
These are the biggest variable on that itinerary.
And probably the most important.
Yes.
To you.
Yes, to you.
Yeah.
So that changes, it's very fluid because you're getting things added onto the itinerary, things taken off. So I think that's where the rest of your itinerary gets filled with different things.
Right.
Based off whatever you're doing. Yeah.
So if you're looking at your itinerary before your voyage and you're like, I have 2 hours before dinner. What am I going to do with that time? Plenty. You're going to do plenty because those personal story events are triggered based off of what story path you go down and what characters you talk to and what missions you do. So as long as you're completing missions down a certain path, it's going to keep unlocking more things for you to do while you're there. So make sure you start down a story path, one, but if you want to do these types of missions, but also like, don't freak out. We freaked out so much about our itinerary that I think we had it like almost memorized before we went.
And then again, when it changes, you're kind of like, whoa, you know, it's a curveball. And then the last part of it is literally just trying to just discover, you know, just walk around and looking at things. Like you could spend a good chunk of time just appreciating, you know, the artistry of the ship or the, you know, the design of the hotel. And
we don't call it that.
Yeah. but you could appreciate that, and that is part of your, you know, filler time and just doing other things, because sometimes that's hard, looking for these like hidden Easter eggs and stuff like that.
Yeah, because there are Easter eggs. They're getting released and we're learning about them in like the graphic novels, Halcyon Legacy that's coming out. I don't know if you know this, but they announced we should show it. We should show the cover of it. They announced the Princess and the Scoundrel novel that's coming out in August, I believe, which is Han and Leia's honeymoon aboard the Halcyon. And there is an Easter egg that's already been discovered on the Halcyon that I think is probably going to get discussed in the book. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But yeah, so if you're watching the YouTube, we'll show the cover. But yeah, there's fun little Easter eggs. And then it's just beautiful. And just to sit there and just enjoy and people watch. It's the best people watching. Because everybody's dressed up.
There's that part of it too, just being able to talk to people and, you know, talk about, you know, again, communicate. There's different aspects to it, but as far as your time, it'll definitely get filled with, you know, different things.
100%. It's take me back. When are we going back?
I don't know.
We will. We'll go back though. All right. I think that wraps up this discussion. So if you have enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting us. It is completely free to you. By the way, you can do that by either liking, subscribing, following, sharing, leaving a comment. It means so much to us.
Princess and Scoundrel is part of the Thank the Maker network. So if you're getting excited for Kenobi, go check out Adam, Ryan, and Nick over at Thank the Maker. Currently, they're recapping each season of Rebels. And if you are preparing for Celebration, getting those costumes ready, go check out Mike Forrester at Armor Party. Might be able to pick up some tips and tricks on how to get that costume celebration ready. And thanks for hanging out.
Until next time.